book, page 72, exercise number 2. Now we have to ask and answer. Now, this is the example. Have you ever lived in the Northeast? No, I haven't. Let's have a look at the examples. Have you ever traveled to Aqaba? Have you ever climbed Jabal Dami? Have you ever visited the Dead Sea? Have you ever visited the skyscraper or a skyscraper? So, let's have a look. Now, number 1. Have you ever lived in the Northeast? Number 2. Have you ever traveled to Aqaba? Number 3. Have you ever climbed Jabal Dami? Number 4. Have you ever visited the Dead Sea? And number 5, have you ever stayed in a skyscraper? Have you ever stayed or visited? Okay, we can say visited and we can say stayed. Both are correct. Both are correct. Moving on. Now, activity book, page 69. Exercise number 1. Listen and write. So, now here is the audio script. You will listen to sentences and you have to write them very well, okay? In a tidy handwriting, and you have to write them in a good spelling. So number 1, exercise is good for your heart. Exercise is good for your heart, okay? Number 2, we saw a fireworks display. We saw a fireworks display. And number 3, I think that I will design a skyscraper. And number 4, the Dead Sea is a big and salty. The Dead Sea is a big and salty. Now, look and say, skyscrapers, cars, people, mobile phones, and noise. Now, in the past and in the present. Let's have a look and let's compare. Let's compare between them. Were there a lot of cars? No, there weren't. There weren't a lot of cars, so there weren't a lot of noise, and also there weren't mobile phones, and there weren't skyscrapers, and there weren't a lot of people as well, okay? But now, let's have a look at the example. There weren't any skyscrapers in the past. There are a lot of skyscrapers now. There are a lot of skyscrapers now. So this is now in the present. Here in the present also, there are a lot of mobile phones and there are a lot of cars. Okay? So, let's have a look at the answers. There weren't any skyscrapers in the past. There are a lot of skyscrapers now. Number 2, there weren't many cars in the past. There are a lot of cars now. There weren't many people in the past, but there are a lot of people now. There weren't any mobile phones in the past. There are mobile phones now. And there were small houses in the past. There aren't any small houses now. And there weren't any phones in the past. There are a lot of phones now. And the last one is, not the last. There were a lot of trees in the past. There aren't a lot of trees now because they cut the trees because they want to build more skyscrapers, okay, and more buildings. There wasn't a lot of noise in the past, but now there is a lot of noise now. Moving on, talk about you. People will travel to scientists will invent, architects will design, astronaut will discover, and everyone will live. So, let's have a look at this. In 100 years, I think that people will travel to the moon on holiday. In 100 years, okay? So we are talking about the previous 100 years or the future 100 years. Of course, the future 100 years, okay? So what is going to happen or what will happen? Let's have a look. In 100 years, I think that people will travel to the moon on holiday. Number 2, in 100 years, I think that scientists will invent roads in the sky for flying cars. Number 3, in 100 years, I think that architects will design taller skyscrapers and in 100 years, I think that astronauts will discover new planets. And the last one, in 100 years, I think that everyone will live in skyscrapers. Moving on, look and write. So, here is a picture for the past 20 years ago. 20 years ago, okay? And there is... Okay, so let's have a look. Once again, birds, cars, children, flowers, plants, people, shops, skyscrapers, trees, and phone. Okay? 20 years ago, there were a lot of... Let's have a look at the answers. 20 years ago, there were a lot of cars. There weren't any flowers or trees. There were a lot of people, but there weren't many children here. There were a lot of shops. Now, there are a lot of flowers and trees. There are a lot of birds. There aren't many people, but there are some children. There are now a lot of skyscrapers. There even is a phone. Okay? So, let's have a look at this. Read and say right or wrong. Now, let's read this. Mustafa Salame worked in a hotel for 10 years. He liked climbing. He said, I think that I will climb the highest mountain on earth. His friend said, I think you should play sports because you will need a lot of energy. Mustafa decided to do a lot of exercise. It was hard work. After 8 years, his muscles were strong. His heart worked well. His health was good. Then on Independence Day, 2008, Mustafa put the Jordanian flag on the highest mountain. There were celebrations in Jordan. Okay? Moving on, let's have a look. Number 1, Mustafa Salame worked in a school for 10 years. No, he worked in a hotel. Okay? He worked in a hotel. Number 2, Mustafa Salame liked football. No, he liked climbing. He liked climbing mountains. Number 3, he said, I will visit the lowest place on earth. He said, no, I will visit the highest place on earth, or I will climb the highest place. Number 4, he decided to do a lot of exercise because he needed a lot of energy. No, he decided to do a lot of exercise because yes, he needed a lot of energy and he needed to strengthen his heart. He needed to make his heart strong enough and his muscles enough. His muscles have to be strong enough to climb the mountain, to go up the mountain. After 6 years, his muscles were strong. No, after 8 years. Mustafa was healthy. Before or after the exercises? We will see. He put the Jordanian flag on the highest mountain on Independence Day, 2008. Yes. And there were celebrations in his hotel. No, there were celebrations in Jordan. Let's have a look at the answers. Number 1, it's wrong. Mustafa Salame worked in a hotel for 10 years. Number 2, wrong. Mustafa Salame liked climbing. Number 3, wrong. He said, I will climb the highest mountain on earth. Number 4, it's right. It's correct. What is number 5? Number 5, it's, no. His muscles were strong after 6 years. After 8 years. After 8 years. It's not after 6 years. Yeah. So, number 5, after 8 years, his muscles were strong. Number 6, it's right. Let's have a look at number 6. Mustafa was healthy. Yes, he was. And number 7, it's right because number 7, he put the Jordanian flag, yes, on the Independence Day. And number 8, wrong, there were celebrations in Jordan, not in his hotel. Okay? Moving on. Activity book, page 71, exercise number 4. Read and order, then listen and check. Now we're going to read. Boys, friends, elephant, fizzy, kite, knock, my, north, some, touch, twice, up, why, Wendy, young, zoo. So we have here z sound. We have w sound and e. Wendy, Wendy. So, and we have the k sound or the kite, kite, it. Okay, I. And we have the up, up. So, let's have a look. Boys. Friends, friends, friends. So, here is friends. Okay? Here is the sound. Now, elephant, elephant, elephant. So, here is elephant. Elephant. Okay? Now, fuzzy. Fuzzy as Wendy, fuzzy. And it has the double Z sound, fuzzy. Okay? Kite. Kite. Here is it. Knock, knock, knock. Like up. My, kite, my. Okay? North, north. We have north. Okay. Some, touch. Some and touch have the same sound as up, some, and touch. Touch. Okay? And we have twice. So this one has the sound I, up. It has the sound Y. It goes with here, Y. Y. Windy, young, zoo. Young here. Young. And zoo here. Is it zoo? Okay? Moving on. The last activity, which is activity book, page 71, exercise number 5. Complete. I think that I learned what? Learned about Jordan, cultural places. Okay, Jordan, cultural places. I learned about Jordan cultural places, الأماكن في الأردن. Okay, I want to learn more about old and natural places in Jordan. Okay, I'm going to write a leaflet about places in Jordan, and give it to my teacher.